Welcome to this explainer. Look, whether you're stepping into a classroom for the absolute first time, probably with a mix of pure terror and excitement, or you're a seasoned veteran looking to completely revamp your instructional style, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to build your essential professional toolkit. We'll be taking all that dense, foundational educational theory and translating it into highly actionable practical steps you can use on day one.
Because let's be real, teaching isn't just a job. It's a concerted sharing of knowledge. It's an art form, and fundamentally, it's a deeply moral activity. Like Nelson Mandela famously said, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. You're taking on the massive responsibility of shaping minds and perspectives, and while that requires a rock-solid foundation. So here's our professional roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover the foundation of teaching, knowing your learners, structuring classroom goals, choosing your methods, and finally, the power of assessment. Let's just dive right in.
Starting with Section 1, the foundation of teaching, and specifically, setting your mindset.
Every single day, teaching happens on a sort of hierarchy. Down at the bottom, you've got the memory level. Think rote facts, memorizing multiplication tables or recalling dates. Moving up a step to the understanding level. That's where students know exactly why 3 times 4 is 12, or why a specific war actually started. But your ultimate goal? That's the reflective level. This is highly active, problem-centric learning. It's like handing your students a budget and having them use math to solve a real-world problem. Your job is to push your classroom up this hierarchy as often as humanly possible.
Now, to reach that top reflective level, you really need to embrace a concept called constructivism. Basically, instead of acting like a giant dispenser of facts trying to fill up empty buckets, you want to think of yourself as a master architect, helping students build their own understanding. They're using their past experiences as the raw materials to accommodate new information. You're just facilitating as they construct their own active understanding of the world.
All right, moving to Section 2, knowing your learners. Who is actually sitting in those desks?
Look, you simply cannot teach everyone the exact same way and expect the same results. Take adolescent learners, for example. Their brains are just shifting to abstract thought, and they're intensely influenced by their peers. They absolutely need you to explicitly link today's lesson to their future goals if you want to keep them engaged. Compare that to adult learners. They're highly independent and demand immediate practical uses for what they're learning, constantly drawing on their rich life experiences. You've got to tailor your approach to the specific minds right in front of you.
Which brings us to Section 3, structuring classroom goals. This is your blueprint.
Enter Bloom's taxonomy. This classic framework, revised back in 2001, is literally your ultimate lesson planning tool. It lets you scaffold learning objectives step by step. So maybe you start on a Monday asking students to just remember key historical dates. By Wednesday, you're pushing them to analyze the complex causes of an event. And by Friday, they're at the very top of the taxonomy, creating their own original work based on everything they've learned. It's an incredible roadmap for critical thinking.
But as you climb that taxonomy, there's one totally non-negotiable ingredient, and that's relevance. Relevance is what anchors all this theory to reality. If you aren't connecting the academic topic on the whiteboard to their personal aspirations or to a real-world issue they actually care about, you are going to lose them to a sea of blank stares. If they can't see why it matters to their own lives, there's just no way they'll engage with it.
Okay, Section 4. Choosing your methods. Let's talk about execution.
Every single day, you face a massive choice. Do you rely on traditional, teacher-centered methods, doing all the talking at the front of the room while students passively consume a lecture from a textbook? Or do you shift to learner-centered methods? That's where your role completely transforms into an expert facilitator. You're moving around the room while students are dynamically collaborating and actively constructing their own meaning. To hit that high reflective level we talked about earlier, you really want to pack your toolkit with learner-centered methods. Launch a discussion where students have to debate and defend their ideas. Spark some inquiry-based learning where they actually investigate solutions and ask their own questions, rather than just memorizing facts. Or use experiential learning to get their hands dirty, learning by doing. That's a real game changer.
So you've planned the lesson, you've used these dynamic learner-centered methods, and the bell rings. Which brings us to arguably the most terrifying, yet absolutely essential question for a new teacher. Okay, you taught the lesson, but did they actually learn anything?
And that perfectly tees up Section 5, the power of assessment or the feedback loop.
First up, let's demystify the jargon, because honestly, these terms get thrown around interchangeably, and they really shouldn't be. Measurement is simply the act of giving a test score, just assigning a number. Evaluation is taking that number and judging it, deciding is this score good or bad. But assessment, that is entirely different. Assessment is the ongoing, systematic, daily gathering of information and evidence specifically designed to help you improve your teaching and help the student improve their learning.
And here's a golden rule that might just shock you out of traditional thinking. Daily classroom formative assessments are almost never graded. Yeah, that's right. In fact, they're often totally anonymous. A formative assessment is just a quick check-in. Maybe it's an exit ticket they hand you at the door, or literally just a simple thumbs up, thumbs down to show if they grasp the math concept. It's absolutely not about punishing them with a low grade. It's a diagnostic tool for you. It tells you if you need to pivot your instruction for tomorrow.
You see, a high-quality classroom assessment actually brings the student in on the secret. It's learner-centered and mutually beneficial. It has incredibly clear purposes and targets, so the student knows exactly what success looks like. When students actually understand the feedback, they stop chasing an arbitrary letter grade and start getting highly motivated by their own tangible progress.
Because at the end of the day, assessment for learning is only as effective as what you do with the data. It is never the end of a process. Instead, it's the bridge to tomorrow's lesson plan. You use it to determine the exact next step for your students, ensuring absolutely no one gets left behind.
Look, stepping into the classroom is incredibly tough work. The late-night planning, the constant pivoting, the endless assessing, the sheer exhaustion of a Friday afternoon, it's going to drain your energy. But as Aristotle wisely noted thousands of years ago, the roots of education may be bitter, but the fruit is sweet. That specific moment when a complex concept finally clicks for a struggling student, that makes every single ounce of the effort worthwhile.
So, as you zip up your professional toolkit and smell those fresh, dry erase markers, preparing for that very first bell to ring, I'll leave you with this. What kind of environment will you build tomorrow? Will your classroom be a place where students just sit and memorize the past, or will you empower them to actively construct their own future? The first move is all yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.